So this will be what should be the second round of testing on this DSi LL Bronze console. So let me see here. So based on the notes I have, there's a little bit of damage on the digitizer. I remember this. There's just a tiny bit of damage on the OEM digitizer right on the top left corner. It hurts me to see this damage. From what I can gather from the bezel, well, I can just show it. I don't have to speak in hypothetical or like try to explain it. What I can tell, the damage is right there. It's that little white mark. From what I can tell from the damage right here, I'm guessing this thing had a screen protector and then somebody tried taking it off with, I don't know, a shovel or something. Just completely damaged the otherwise fairly rigid plastic bezel and even scratching the screen. Which I'm fairly positive that was not my handiwork because, well, I value these things way too highly, especially the OEM digitizers, but it is what it is. This is what I have. And though that damage on the corner does distort pixels, it distorts like the outer 2 rows of pixels, so I'm just going to leave that up for a buyer if that's critically important to them. It's sort of skirting my rules a little on what I would like to proceed with. It's at the very corner, like, it'll catch your stylus if you run against it, but it's at the extreme corner of the screen. It's sort of the, like, that, like, gray area between, nope, this touchscreen has to be swapped, and it's fine. It's in that, like, it's just, like, right in the middle of that line. I don't want to replace it because the screen is in otherwise, like, amazing shape. I think barring, like, a couple light scratches. So, I'll put a screen protector on it, so that should... Even there, I don't even think a screen protector will hit that edge, just because the screen protector is a lot smaller than the screen. I wouldn't be able to put on the screen protector if it was the exact size. Yeah, it's just one of those weird cases, so I'll just leave it as is. I did report a buzzing in the mic. I will mention that in the final review, but from what I determined on another console, the buzzing isn't creating an input. It's not of sort of a high enough frequency to, like, create a false input. It's not like the mic is completely damaged and it's just creating this, like, high-pitched squeal that's just max input the entire time. It's just sort of a light buzzing in the background. I don't really know if that means just the microphone's damaged or it's old. Maybe there's a component failure or maybe like a capacitor or something. I don't know. I'm not going to really try and speculate. So let me look at the notes I have on this thing. It is a LL. I think this is the one of 2 bronze Japanese consoles that I have. 1125 are the first 4 numbers. What do I got here? No known issues. I have no notes on the shell, so motherboard is all is good in that front. So let me start by turning it on and looking at the screens. Nice. Screens are very good. Is that under the screen? Okay, there was a speck sort of blocking a pixel, but it wiped off. Cool. Yeah, those screens look really good. So my first round of testing, which I will do, is a tactile button test. So I slotted in an R4 or R4 card, there's a program on here that will allow me to test button inputs. So what I'll do is press the face buttons 10 or so times. Face buttons I'm not worried about. They're usually always fine. There are the odd cases, but the only times I've ever had problems with the face buttons is if the motherboard has water damage on it. Like somebody spilt a sugary drink on the face of the console and liquid got between the buttons. I think a lot of those consoles I'll just end up junking or trying to replace the actual face buttons. I've never done that before, but it seems like it should be a fairly painless process. I might just have to watch my temperature so I don't melt them. Then I'll just sort of... The shoulder buttons I'm spending a lot of time with, they tend to be the problems. So I'll press the button on the left to the right, in between slow inputs, fast inputs. That seems fine. For some reason, it's been R buttons that have been giving me troubles recently. I think on this sort of batch of consoles, it's always been the R button. Alright, everything's good on that front. Next is the touchscreen. I have another homebrew software that just turns the bottom screen into a sketchpad. Now I kind of want to put a little emphasis around this spot up here. Yeah, like if I'm against the edge of the screen, I catch it. There shouldn't be any UI elements that ask you to do the very like edge of the screen, so. I think I'm spending more time trying to justify that damage than it would be for me to just replace the digitizer, but man, the screen's otherwise perfect. So I'll just let buyers decide if that's a problem. I'll make sure to point it out in the best clarity that I can, but it's the type of damage I wouldn't mind if I were playing a console like this, because it wouldn't impact its performance. Anyway, I'll stop mentioning it. I think it bothers me because either I missed it or I think it's because I missed it and I didn't note it down. Okay. So next is sound, microphone, and headphone jack, or just sort of the sound systems of the console. I'll combo this with an SD card slot test because I have a piece of music loaded up on the SD card slot test, and by my understanding, if the console can read the SD card slot and read a song off of the SD card slot, it should be good. I really have no reason to suspect there's a problem with it. So volume up and down, the system is responding. That little bar is moving up and down. Both shoulder button or both volume buttons work. La 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 la. Yeah, there is sort of that light. Don't record me. It's a little hard to make out. But you can kind of see how the waveform was just trembling. So it's just like a hum. Which, again, was nothing I really paid attention to, so like even... Let me turn down the volume. It's almost like a hum you would get from like damaged headphone cables. It's just like, yeah, I'll mention it. I don't really know how to describe it. There's probably some audiophile term for it, but a buzzing in the mic that doesn't generate an input, I guess, is really the best way I can describe it. So here it is. I went to play my music. It sees my SD card. It sees the song. So what I'm going to do is play the song, listen to both speakers, plug in my headphones, listen to both headphones to see if both channels work on both fronts. Right. Everything works there. Next is cameras, and I just basically see, do they initialize? Is there anything weird about their feeds? They both look fine. Next is the charge port. I have my USB tester plugged in from the last console I did, so first plug in the console, kind of blind here. System responds, gives a little charging icon. Charge light saying it's charging, and I'm getting 0.5 amp draw. Close the console, and then I'll just jiggle the charge port around. And that charge light stays on the entire time. So that tells me the charge port's good, and there's no solder joints broken on the motherboard. All right. Game card slot test. I'll grab that stack at 20 game cards. Now, Bejeweled was giving me problems on the last console I just did, so hopefully that if it does become a problem in this console, then, well, it's definitely a Bejeweled issue, but we'll see. So I'll kind of explain it as I go. So I'll slot the game card in normally and see if it appears, which so far Bejeweled is behaving itself. I did clean it, so... Or I used it to clean a game card slot, so it might read good for a while. Or that's maybe all it needed. Anyway. I wasn't able to get it to disconnect like it was, so I'm going to call it good. I'll slot the game card in normally. And then what I'll do is put my fingers on it and shift it from side to side. There's a tiny bit of play in the game card slot. And then I'll start pushing down on the game card until it ejects, or until it sort of clicks the ejection mechanism. Then I'll keep going down until it completely bottoms out in the game card slot. Ooh. So that disconnected on me randomly. And that's what I'm looking for, is for the game card to just randomly cut out like that. So now the game is to see if I can try to repeat it. If I can't repeat it, then I take that as just a fluke. Maybe I just the way I pressed on it, maybe I accidentally pulled it out a little too far and wasn't really paying attention. Or it could just be like system level bug or something. Okay, I can't repeat it. So put the game card in, shifting it from side to side as I press it down all the way until the game card completely bottoms out, all in the effort to make the game card disconnect for even just a fraction of a second. Which, so far, barring that one little case, which I guess I'll put Zuzu aside to see if I can repeat it at the end. But after I'm done sort of doing that shift, that jiggling, I do that about 3 times, give or take, depending on how confident I'm feeling. I'll slap the console against my open palm to see if the game card will disappear. And in the era of manual saves, if you're playing a game card and it disconnects, it will freeze or just completely shut off your console, and that would be very irritating. A lot of the times the game card slot just needs cleaning. No biggie. but it's something I like to try and catch, because if it ends up being like a pin issue, then that's something I can at least attempt to repair. I'll have to do I have a couple jank motherboards that have just the game card slot pins are just completely just demolished. Somebody jammed stuff or something in the game card slot and just completely bent up all the pins. So I definitely need to... I definitely want to get to one of those consoles to repair them, because it would be taking out all the pins, either replacing the game card slot as a whole or replacing all the pins. Either, which I really don't have too much experience removing game card slots without, like, completely damaging them. Which I do have new game card slots, so I might as well... Yeah, it's hard to say. Because you really only... Because in that case, all of the pins are fouled. Or in at least the cases that I have. So either I replace every single pin individually, or replace the game card slot, and if the game card slot itself is in otherwise good shape, I would almost rather want to keep that and just replace all the pins. I don't know how well aftermarket game card slots work, but so far in my experience, a lot of aftermarket parts have their own quirks. Like, say for instance, the top screen lenses, which tend to be slightly miscolored, or even sort of not even really even cleaned out of the factory. They're just covered in, like, debris. So, and then I notice sometimes in those blue consoles, they tend to be like a slightly different tint of blue. The shells, third-party shells that I've dealt with, have all had just a fun little laundry list of just weird quirks about them. They just don't fit together really well. The screw posts strip really easily. The buttons feel very shallow. Just it just feels wrong. The text on the back is poor quality. Just a whole list of issues. And then you get to the digitizers, which have like a weird rough texture to them that you can't, that just feel awful to play, so you have to put on a screen protector for them to even be like remotely usable. Just weird issues. I've never liked that I had to resort to third-party parts, but well, it's the only option aside from sacrificing a DS for parts. Which, that's one of the possible markets I can get into, is just selling parts. It's definitely something I need to think about. Okay, so I'll try Zuzu again. Everything else read perfectly. Zuzu disconnected that once. But I can't repeat it. So I'm going to chalk that down as a fluke. Either maybe when I was clicking it in and out, maybe I accidentally pulled out the game card just a little too much, or just sort of in my mindless testing, I just sort of I'm just going to consider that a fluke on my end. What I can do, however, is I'll just do a cleaning pass on it. At most, it fixes the issue. Maybe it's just something wrong with this game card. At worst, it does nothing. It's a very benign thing that I do. And it can only give benefits. So what I do is I'll dribble 91% alcohol on these game card pins, and then just click it in and out of the slot. A lot. Just sort of doing that friction against the game card slot pins inside the console, as well as the game card pin, or the game card contacts. I get those terms mixed up a lot. Not really sure why. But usually when I put alcohol in, sometimes it makes that plastic back plate a little sticky, for lack of a better term. But once it dries, it goes back to normal. Okay, I don't even think that game cards mentioning Zuzu cutting out once as an issue, because I wasn't able to repeat it. The buzz in the mic, I'll just have that there, that I will mention in the final score. Upper left damage on the digitizer sucks. Image retention and sleep, I cleared that on the first test. I suppose I can write down. So I'm clearing this for test 2. I think it's in good enough shape. I'm just trying to see if I'm not missing anything. Because when I do a bunch of these tests one after another, I'll guarantee that I will just sort of gloss over something. Which I did not in this case. So the last test is the Wi-Fi test, but the only access point I can connect DS consoles to is my phone. My phone is currently being used as a camera, so I can't do that right now. Alright, so I can move on to the next one.